Admiral Sarah Chen stood in the center of the grand chamber aboard Nexus Station. The massive space station floated in the cold darkness between stars, far from any world that humans called home. Around her, 12 different alien species sat at a curved table that seemed to stretch forever. Their eyes, tentacles, and other sensing organs all focused on her with the same expression: superiority, mixed with barely hidden disgust. The chamber itself was built to intimidate. The ceiling rose so high that it disappeared into shadows. Holographic displays showed the military might of the Galactic Council, thousands of warships, millions of soldiers, entire star systems under their control. The message was clear: humanity was small, weak, and alone. Chen wore her simple blue uniform with pride. No decorations, no fancy materials that could not be made on Earth. She represented not just Earth's military, but every human who had ever looked up at the stars and wondered what lay beyond. The weight of 6 billion souls rested on her shoulders, and she felt every one of them. Admiral Chen, spoke the hegemony's primary representative, a tall creature with silver skin and 4 arms. Its voice carried the tone of someone speaking to a child. "We have prepared a most generous offer for your species. You should feel honored that the Council has chosen to extend this opportunity to humanity." The alien gestured, and a holographic document appeared in the air between them. The treaty looked impressive, hundreds of pages of carefully written terms that promised technological advancement, protection from hostile forces, and membership in the greatest alliance the galaxy had ever known. Chen had spent weeks studying every word, every clause, every hidden meaning. "The terms are quite simple," continued another representative, this one looking like a giant insect with compound eyes. "Humanity will receive full protection under Council law. Your worlds will be safe from invasion. Your people will have access to advanced medical technology that could extend human lifespans by centuries. Your scientists will learn from species that mastered faster than light travel when your ancestors were still living in caves." A third alien, resembling a floating jellyfish made of blue energy, added its thoughts. "Trade opportunities beyond your imagination await. Rare materials, exotic foods, entertainment from 1,000 worlds. Your economy will grow beyond anything you could achieve alone." Chen listened without speaking. She had heard these same promises during 3 days of negotiations. They sounded wonderful until you read the fine print that was carefully hidden in subsections and appendices. The real terms were buried deep in legal language that most humans would never understand. "And in return?" Chen asked quietly. "Very little," the silver-skinned hegemony representative replied smoothly. "Simply acknowledgement of Council authority in matters of galactic security. Some limitations on military expansion. Purely for peacekeeping purposes, you understand. A small tribute to help fund the protection services you will receive. Standard terms that every member species has accepted." Chen almost smiled at the careful words. Standard terms, every member species. What the alien did not say was that every other species had been given the same choice: accept the treaty or face extinction. The Council had never encountered a species that chose the second option. They expected humanity to be grateful for the opportunity to survive. "Let me make sure I understand correctly," Chen said, stepping closer to the holographic treaty. "Humanity disbands its military forces except for local police. All human expansion beyond our current 12 colonies stops immediately. Earth's government becomes a regional authority under Council oversight. Humans cannot develop certain technologies without Council approval, and we pay an annual tribute of raw materials that equals roughly 40% of our total production." "You focus on such minor details," the insect-like alien clicked disapprovingly. "Think of the benefits: peace, security, advancement." "And if we refuse?" Chen asked. The chamber fell silent. No species had ever asked that question seriously before. The aliens exchanged glances that clearly said they thought Chen was joking. "Admiral," the jellyfish creature pulsed with different colors, "surely you cannot be considering such foolishness. Your species has 47 ships that you consider war-worthy. We have tracking data on each one. The Council fleet contains over 30,000 vessels, many of which could destroy entire planets. Your technology is centuries behind ours. Your numbers, while impressive for a single world, are tiny compared to our combined populations. Your point?" Chen asked calmly. "Refusal would mean war," the hegemony representative stated flatly. "War that humanity cannot win, or that would end with your extinction. Surely you would not choose the death of your entire species over such reasonable terms." Chen looked around the chamber one more time. These beings controlled an empire spanning thousands of star systems. Their technology could indeed destroy worlds. Their fleets could blot out the light of suns. Everything they said about humanity's military weakness was completely true. She reached into her uniform pocket and pulled out a small recording device. I need to ask my government one final question before I can give you an answer. The aliens waited while Chen activated the device. Her words would be transmitted instantly across the galaxy to Earth through quantum communication arrays that the Council had graciously allowed humanity to use. Earth Control. This is Admiral Chen. I have reviewed the final treaty terms with the Galactic Council. The choice is simple. Accept their protection and become a client species under permanent Council authority, or refuse and face immediate military action against all human worlds. I need a decision from the Global Assembly. Are we a free species or are we not? The response came back in less than 5 minutes, though it felt like hours. The voice of President Martinez filled the chamber. Admiral Chen, the Global Assembly has voted. The vote was not even close. Earth stands with you whatever you decide. Humanity bows to no one. Chen looked down at the holographic treaty floating before her, thousands of pages of carefully crafted surrender disguised as generous terms. She thought about every human who had died fighting for freedom throughout history. She thought about the children on 12 worlds who deserved to choose their own destiny among the stars. The treaty documents looked solid, but they were only light. Chen reached forward and grasped them as if they were real paper. The holograms flickered and sparked as her hands passed through them, but the gesture was clear to everyone watching. The human species rejects your treaty, she announced in a voice that carried to every corner of the great chamber. We will make our own way among the stars. We will face whatever comes as free beings. The silence that followed lasted exactly 3 seconds. Then the chamber erupted in shocked voices, angry clicks, and warning chimes from a dozen different species. The hegemony representative's silver skin darkened with what Chen assumed was rage. You doom your entire species, it shouted. For what, pride? Stubbornness? Your freedom will last exactly as long as it takes our fleets to reach your pathetic colonies. Maybe, Chen replied quietly. But we will face whatever comes as humans, not as your slaves. She turned and walked toward the exit without asking permission to leave. Behind her, the council representatives were already calling for fleet mobilization and invasion plans. Chen did not look back. She had delivered humanity's answer. War was coming. News of Admiral Chen's rejection spread across the galaxy, faster than the speed of light itself. Within hours, every species in council space knew that the humans had done the impossible. They had said no to the hegemony and lived long enough to leave the negotiation chamber. Most aliens thought it was either a mistake or temporary insanity that would be quickly corrected. They were wrong. On Earth, President Martinez stood before the Global Assembly as representatives from every nation gathered in emergency session. The Great Hall buzzed with nervous energy but not panic. Humanity had spent 50 years preparing for this moment, even if they had hoped it would never come. My fellow humans, Martinez began, his voice steady and clear. Admiral Chen has delivered our message to the galaxy. We have chosen freedom over safety, independence over protection. The Galactic Council will respond with force. The question before us now is simple. Do we stand together or do we fall separately? The vote was unanimous. Every nation, every colony, every human settlement from Mars to the furthest outpost voted the same way. Earth would fight. Similar scenes played out across human space. On Mars, the colonial government activated defense protocols that had been in place for decades. On Europa Station, miners converted their equipment into weapons manufacturing. On New Kenya, farmers began hiding food supplies and preparing for siege. Every human world sent the same message back to Earth. We stand ready. The reaction was different in council space. Emergency sessions convened on every major world as species representatives tried to understand what the humans were thinking. How could such a primitive species choose certain destruction over reasonable terms? They cannot be serious, declared the Zephyrian ambassador at a hastily called meeting on the capital world of Hegemonia Prime. No intelligent species commits suicide for abstract concepts like freedom. Perhaps they do not understand the mathematics of the situation, suggested the Crystalline Republic's representative. 47 ships against 30,000. They're primitive weapons against our advanced technology. Maybe we should explain it to them again. The Hegemony High Command was not interested in further explanations. Admiral Vex, the silver-skinned commander who had negotiated with Chen, called for immediate action. Every day we delay makes us look weak. Other client species are already asking questions about the human rejection. If we do not respond with overwhelming force, others might get similar ideas. Within 6 hours of Chen's departure from Nexus Station, the largest fleet in galactic history began forming near the Hegemony's primary naval base. Ships from 12 different species joined the Armada, dreadnoughts that could crack planets, carrier vessels holding thousands of fighters, support ships carrying enough firepower to sterilize solar systems. The plan was simple and had worked against every other species the Council had encountered. A massive show of force would appear at the edge of human space. Overwhelming numbers would make resistance obviously hopeless. Faced with certain extinction, the humans would reconsider their decision and accept the treaty terms. No shots would need to be fired, but the Hegemony made one critical error. They assumed humans thought like other species they had conquered. Admiral Chen's ship arrived at Earth just as the Global Assembly finished its emergency votes. She walked into the Situation Room beneath Geneva to find organized chaos. Military commanders from every nation worked alongside scientists, engineers, and civilian leaders. The walls showed tactical displays of every human world, ship positions, resource allocations, and defense preparations. Status report, Chen requested as she took her place at the central command table. General Harrison of the North American Federation spoke first. All military forces are now under unified command as of 20 minutes ago. Every nation has transferred authority to the Emergency Defense Council. We have our 47 warships, but they're spread across 12 systems. Industrial conversion is ahead of schedule, added Director Patel from the Asian Manufacturing Alliance. Every major factory is now producing military equipment. We're converting civilian ships for combat use. Mining operations have switched to extracting materials for weapons and armor. Chen nodded. Humanity had learned hard lessons from their own history. When facing extinction, every resource became a weapon. Every citizen became a soldier, and every world became a fortress. What about the other colonies? She asked. New Tokyo reports their orbital defense platforms will be operational in 72 hours, General Harrison continued. Proxima Colony has finished evacuating non-essential personnel to underground shelters. Alpha Centauri Station has converted their industrial complex into a weapons factory. The reports continued for an hour. Humanity was transforming itself from a peaceful colonizing species into something the galaxy had never seen, an entire civilization preparing for total war. Every human understood the stakes. Surrender meant slavery. Victory meant survival. There was no middle ground. Meanwhile, long-range sensors began detecting the Council fleet as it finished forming near Hegemony space. The numbers were staggering. Over 30,000 vessels of various sizes, all heading toward human territory. The largest military force ever assembled was coming to end humanity's brief experiment with independence. Time to contact? Chen asked the sensor operator. At their current speed, the lead elements will reach our outer colonies in 6 days. 6 days to finish preparations. 6 days before the most powerful military alliance in galactic history arrived to destroy everything humans had built among the stars. The odds were impossible. The enemy was overwhelming. The outcome seemed predetermined, but something had changed in the hours since Chen's rejection of the treaty. Reports were coming in from across human space that surprised even the military commanders. Civilian volunteers were signing up for military service in numbers that broke all records. Engineers were working around the clock without being asked. Miners were extracting resources faster than ever before. Children too young to fight were helping in factories and farms. General, Chen said quietly, I want you to send a message to every human world. Tell them that Earth is proud of them. Tell them that we fight not just for survival, but for the right to choose our own path among the stars. Tell them that 6 billion humans believe in what we're doing. The message went out across the quantum communication network. Every human colony, every space station, every ship received the same words. Earth was proud. Earth believed. Earth would fight. The Council fleet continued its approach, expecting to find a broken, desperate enemy ready to surrender. Instead, they were flying towards something they had never encountered before, an entire species that had chosen to fight rather than kneel. In 6 days, They would learn what humans were truly capable of when their backs were against the wall, and their freedom was on the line. The galaxy was about to discover why Earth's most dangerous predator had always been humanity itself. The Council fleet arrived at New Johannesburg exactly on schedule. The colony world orbited a red dwarf star at the edge of human space, home to 2 million humans who had spent 30 years turning a desert planet into farmland. Admiral Vex had chosen it as the first target specifically because it looked defenseless. A few orbital platforms, one small defense station, and a handful of civilian ships. The hegemony expected the colony to surrender immediately when faced with impossible odds. 300 Council warships appeared at the edge of the system, their massive hulls gleaming with advanced armor and weapons that could level cities. Against them, New Johannesburg had 12 human ships and whatever defenses the colonists had managed to build. Attention, New Johannesburg Colony, Admiral Vex transmitted from his flagship. You are commanded to surrender immediately. Comply, and your population will be relocated safely. Resist, and your world will be sterilized. You have 1 hour to respond. The response came back in 30 minutes. Governor Lisa Park's voice was calm and clear. Admiral, this is New Johannesburg. We've discussed your offer with our people. Our answer is no. Come and take what you can. Vex was surprised but not concerned. One small colony could not seriously resist his fleet. He ordered his ships forward, planning a quick demonstration of overwhelming firepower that would break the colonists' will to fight. The first shock came when his lead ships entered the inner system. The orbital defense platforms that long-range scans had dismissed as primitive suddenly powered up with energy signatures that made no sense. Instead of the expected light weapons, each platform mounted what appeared to be modified mining lasers, industrial equipment converted into military use. Sir, reported his sensor officer, those platforms are showing much higher power output than our intelligence predicted. Irrelevant, Vex replied. Begin the attack. Target the defense platforms first. The first Council ships to engage learned a hard lesson about human engineering. The mining lasers had indeed been converted for military use, but human engineers had not simply bolted weapons onto existing platforms. They had completely rebuilt the power systems, the targeting arrays, and the cooling mechanisms. What looked like primitive equipment was actually a completely new type of weapon system. The lead Council destroyer took a direct hit from what it assumed was a minor defense laser. The beam cut through its shields like they were not there and opened the ship's hull from bow to stern. The destroyer exploded in a brilliant flash that lit up the entire system. What just happened? Vex demanded. The platform's beam somehow bypassed our shields entirely, his weapons officer reported, voice shaking. The frequency modulation is unlike anything in our databases. Before Vex could respond, the other platforms opened fire. 5 more Council ships died in the first minute of combat, their advanced shields useless against weapons that had been designed by humans who understood exactly how Council technology worked. 30 years of studying captured alien equipment had taught human engineers where the weaknesses were. But the real surprise came when the human ships entered the battle. The 12 vessels defending New Johannesburg were not military ships at all. They were converted mining vessels, cargo haulers, and passenger transports. The Council fleet's targeting computers could not understand what they were facing. The former mining ship Digger's Pride had been gutted and rebuilt into something that defied classification. Its hull bristled with weapons that had never appeared in any galactic database. Its engines produced acceleration curves that seemed impossible for its size. When it opened fire, its weapons created effects that Council sensors could not properly analyze. Sir, we're reading multiple unknown weapon types, the sensor officer reported. Some kind of projectile system firing dense metal slugs at extremely high velocity. Energy weapons using frequencies we've never encountered. And something that appears to be deliberately causing electromagnetic interference with our systems. The converted cargo ship, Heavy Lifter, demonstrated another human innovation. Instead of trying to match Council firepower directly, it launched swarms of small drones that had been built in the colony's workshops. Each drone was barely the size of a human fist, but they carried shaped charges designed to exploit specific weaknesses in Council ship armor. The drones moved in patterns that confused Council point defense systems. They did not fly like guided missiles or attack drones that the Council ships were designed to counter. They moved like living creatures, swarming, adapting, learning from each attack run. Within 20 minutes, the Council fleet had lost 30 ships and had not destroyed a single human vessel. Admiral Vex stared at his tactical display in growing alarm. His fleet was supposed to be demonstrating overwhelming superiority. Instead, they were being methodically picked apart by weapons and tactics that should not exist. "How are they doing this?" he demanded. "Our intelligence reports showed primitive technology, basic weapons, no serious military capability." His intelligence officer looked terrified. "Sir, I think our reports were correct when they were written. But the humans have been modifying everything. Those mining lasers have been completely rebuilt. The civilian ships have been converted into something we've never seen before. Even their tactics are completely different from anything in our combat databases." The truth was simple but hard for the Council to accept. Humans did not fight like other species. When most aliens faced superior technology, they tried to copy it or surrender to it. Humans looked at superior technology and immediately began figuring out how to break it. 30 years of living next to Council space had taught humanity exactly how alien ships worked, how their shields functioned, how their weapons operated, and most importantly, where their weaknesses were. Human engineers had not tried to build better versions of Council technology. They had built completely different weapons designed specifically to exploit Council weaknesses. The battle continued for 6 hours. By the end, Admiral Vex had lost over 100 ships and was facing the possibility of total defeat at the hands of one small human colony. His remaining vessels were taking damage from weapons that behaved unlike anything the Council had ever encountered. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we're receiving reports from the other attack groups. Similar problems at every target. Human resistance is far beyond anything we predicted." Vex looked at his tactical display one more time. His 300 ships had been reduced to fewer than 200, and the humans were still fighting. Worse, they seemed to be getting better at it as the battle progressed, learning from each engagement and adapting their tactics in real time. "Withdraw to minimum safe distance," he ordered finally, "and send a message to High Command. Tell them we need to reconsider our approach." As the battered Council fleet pulled back, Governor Park transmitted one final message. "Admiral, you're welcome to try again any time. We'll be here." The news of New Johannesburg's victory spread across human space faster than light-speed communication. Every human world learned the same lesson. They could fight back. They could win. The Council was not invincible. More importantly, the galaxy was watching. For the first time in centuries, a species had bloodied the hegemony's nose and lived to tell about it. Other client species began asking questions that their governments could not answer. If humans could fight the Council and win, what did that mean for everyone else? The war that was supposed to last hours had become something entirely different. Humanity had drawn first blood, and the galaxy would never be the same. The defeat at New Johannesburg sent shockwaves through the Galactic Council that reached every corner of their empire. For 800 years, the hegemony had never lost a battle against a species they intended to conquer. Client races either surrendered immediately or were destroyed completely. There was no middle ground. No drawn-out conflicts, no casualties that mattered. Humanity had changed that equation permanently. Admiral Vex stood before the Council of 12 on Hegemonia Prime, his silver skin pale with humiliation. Around him, the representatives of 12 species demanded explanations for what they could not understand. 137 ships, spoke the Crystalline Republic's ambassador, her voice ringing like broken glass, lost to a single human colony. "How is this possible? Their technology should not have been capable of penetrating our shields," added the Hive Mind's drone representative. "Our intelligence was either completely wrong, or the humans have advanced far beyond our projections." Vex tried to explain what he had witnessed, but the words sounded impossible even to him. "They fight differently than any species we have encountered. Their weapons are not copies of our technology. They are designed specifically to exploit our weaknesses. Their tactics do not follow any known military doctrine." The Hegemony Prime Minister, a being that looked like a walking tree with golden bark, gestured for silence. "Show us the battle recordings." The holographic display filled the center of the chamber with images from the New Johannesburg battle. The Council representatives watched in stunned silence as human weapons tore through ships that should have been invulnerable. They saw Council formations broken by tactics that made no logical sense. They witnessed military doctrine, that had worked for centuries become completely useless against an enemy that refused to fight by galactic rules. Pause. Here, commanded the insect-like representative from the Swarm Collective. The display froze on an image of a converted human mining ship, somehow outmaneuvering 3 Council destroyers simultaneously. Explain how a civilian vessel can move like that. Vex's tactical officer, who had survived the battle, stepped forward nervously. They removed all non-essential systems and rebuilt the entire ship around a new engine design. It should not work according to our physics models, but it does. They somehow created more efficient thrust while using less power. And their weapons? Pressed the jellyfish-like Nebula Federation representative. They studied our shield frequencies and designed weapons specifically to bypass them. Instead of trying to overpower our defenses, they simply ignored them. We have never encountered weapons that work on these principles. The council chamber erupted in angry voices. This was not how war was supposed to work. Species were supposed to surrender when faced with superior technology and numbers. They were not supposed to innovate, adapt, and fight back with weapons that made no sense. The hegemony prime minister called for order. What is the current status of our military campaign? Vex's report was devastating. We have attacked 6 human colonies and been repelled at all of them. Our losses total over 800 ships. Human losses are approximately 40 vessels, most of which were civilian conversions. The silence that followed was deafening. The greatest military alliance in galactic history was being defeated by a species that had been spacefaring for less than a century. How many ships do the humans have? Asked the Prime Minister quietly. Our best estimate is somewhere between 200 and 300 vessels of various types. But sir, they are building more constantly. Every factory, every shipyard, every mining operation has been converted to military production. They are manufacturing weapons and ships faster than we can destroy them. Meanwhile, on Earth, Admiral Chen stood in the war room studying reports from across human space. The initial victories had bought them time, but she knew the Council would adapt eventually. The real question was whether humanity could stay ahead of their enemy's learning curve. What's our production status? She asked Director Patel. Exceeding all projections, Patel replied with satisfaction. We're completing 2 new converted vessels every day and our weapons production has tripled. More importantly, every engagement teaches us more about Council technology. General Harrison added his own report. Military efficiency is increasing faster than expected. Our crews are learning to coordinate better. Our tactics are evolving and morale remains extremely high across all human worlds. Chen nodded. Humanity was learning to fight a galactic war, and they were learning fast. But she knew their enemies would not remain static either. The proof came 2 weeks later when the Council launched their second major offensive. This time, they brought different ships with modified shields and new tactics based on studying the human weapons. Admiral Vex led a fleet of over 2,000 vessels against the human colony at Proxima Centauri. They expected to overwhelm human defenses through sheer numbers and improved technology. Instead, they discovered that humanity had been preparing for exactly this response. The battle began with Council ships approaching Proxima Colony's orbital defenses. The humans had indeed built new weapons, but not the expected improvements to their mining laser technology. Instead, they had created something completely unprecedented in galactic warfare. Sir, reported Vex's sensor officer, we're detecting massive energy buildup on the planet's surface, multiple locations. Power levels are... That cannot be correct, report, Vex demanded. The entire planet appears to be powering up as a single weapon system. The humans had spent 2 weeks turning Proxima Colony into something the galaxy had never seen, a planet-sized defense platform. Instead of orbital weapons that could be destroyed, they had built ground-based systems that drew power from the planet's core itself. The mining colonies that honeycombed the world had been converted into a network of weapons, emplacements that could focus their combined firepower on any target in the system. When the planetary defense grid opened fire, the effect was beyond anything the Council had imagined possible. Beams of energy that drew power from geological sources reached across space to strike targets with unprecedented accuracy and force. Council dreadnoughts that had survived dozens of previous battles simply vanished in flashes of vaporized metal. But the real horror for the Council fleet came when they realized the scope of human tactical innovation. The planetary weapons were just one part of a coordinated defense that included mobile platforms hidden in asteroid fields. disguised weapons satellites that looked like communications arrays, and converted civilian ships that attacked from directions the Council fleet was not even watching. They have turned their entire star system into a weapon, Vex reported to his superiors as his fleet retreated in disorder. Every asteroid, every space station, every piece of technology has been modified for warfare. They are not fighting a battle. They are fighting a war with their entire civilization. The reports coming back to the Council painted a picture that terrified the galaxy's most powerful beings. Humanity was not just winning individual battles. They were changing the fundamental nature of warfare itself. Every human world was becoming a fortress. Every human ship was becoming a weapon. Every human citizen was becoming a soldier. Worse, other species were beginning to take notice. Reports reached the Council of Client Species asking questions about human military technology. Some worlds were requesting information about human defensive strategies. A few species had even begun secret communications with human representatives. The war that was supposed to demonstrate Council power was instead demonstrating Council vulnerability. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy's oppressed peoples had hoped that resistance was possible. Admiral Chen received these reports with grim satisfaction. Humanity was winning the military conflict, but the real victory would come when other species joined the fight for freedom. The galaxy was watching, and the galaxy was learning that even the mighty could be defeated. The hegemony had created an empire based on the belief that resistance was futile. Humanity was proving them wrong, one battle at a time. 3 years had passed since Admiral Chen rejected the Council's treaty, and the galaxy looked very different. What was supposed to be a quick demonstration of hegemony power had become the longest war in Council history. Worse, it was a war they were losing. The numbers told the story that Council leadership refused to accept. Humanity had started with 47 ships and 12 colonies. After 3 years of total war, they controlled 38 star systems and operated over 2,000 vessels of various types. Every month brought new human victories, new territories under their protection, and new species joining what was now called the Free Systems Alliance. Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of the Defiance, humanity's first purpose-built dreadnought. Around her, displays showed the tactical situation across known space. Red zones marked Council territory, blue showed human-controlled systems, and green indicated the growing number of species that had declared independence and joined the alliance. "Status report," Chen requested. Captain Rodriguez, her chief of staff, consulted his datapad. The Altarian Republic declared independence from the Council yesterday. That makes 15 species that have joined the alliance in the past 6 months. The hegemony fleet is spread across 300 systems trying to contain rebellions. What about our military position? Excellent and improving. The Third Fleet completed its liberation of the Vega system last week. No casualties. The local population welcomed us as heroes, and our latest intelligence suggests the Council has lost over 12,000 ships since the war began. Chen nodded, but she felt no satisfaction in the victory reports. Every destroyed Council ship meant dead beings, even if they were the enemy. Every liberated world meant families torn apart by war. The price of freedom was always measured in blood and tears. The transformation of human society had been complete and irreversible. Earth itself now looked like a fortress world, with orbital shipyards that could build entire fleets and planetary defenses that could repel any invasion. Every human colony had become a military outpost. Every citizen understood their role in the war effort, but humanity had not become what their enemies were. Human-controlled worlds were not ruled by military governors or oppressed by occupation forces. Instead, they became examples of what galactic civilization could be when freedom was the foundation instead of fear. "Admiral," Communications Officer Park announced, "we're receiving a priority transmission from Earth. It's marked as from the Galactic Council." Chen raised an eyebrow. The Council had not attempted direct communication with human leadership for over a year. "Put it through." The holographic display shimmered and resolved into the familiar figure of Admiral Vex. The silver-skinned hegemony commander looked older, more tired, and considerably humbler than he had 3 years ago. "Admiral Chen," Vex began, his voice carefully neutral, "I am transmitting under a flag of truce to request a meeting between Council leadership and human representatives." "To discuss our surrender?" Chen asked with dark humor. "To discuss new arrangements," Vex replied carefully. "The current situation is unsustainable for all parties involved. Chen considered the request. The council was finally ready to admit what everyone in the galaxy already knew. They could not win this war. Humanity had proven that determined resistance could succeed. More importantly, they had inspired other species to follow their example. Very well, Chen agreed. But this time we meet in neutral space, and this time humanity sets the terms. 2 weeks later, Chen found herself in another meeting room aboard another space station, but everything else was different. The station belonged to the Altarian Republic, a species that had declared independence and joined the Free Systems Alliance. The meeting room was designed for equals, not for intimidation, and the beings sitting across from her were no longer confident overlords, but defeated representatives seeking the best terms they could get. The 12 species of the Council were all represented, but their unity was gone. Internal disputes had fractured their alliance as member species blamed each other for the disaster that the human war had become. Some wanted to continue fighting until complete victory or total destruction. Others recognized that their empire was collapsing and wanted to negotiate, while they still had something left to bargain with. Admiral Chen, the Hegemony Prime Minister, began, "We are prepared to offer humanity full membership in the Galactic Council with equal status to all existing members." Chen almost laughed. 3 years ago, that offer would have been unthinkable. Now it was an insult. "Prime Minister," she replied calmly, "humanity has no interest in joining an organization dedicated to the oppression of free peoples. We have a better proposal." She activated a holographic display that showed the current political map of the galaxy. Red Council territory was scattered and shrinking. Blue human space formed a growing network of connected systems. Green Alliance worlds created a web of freedom that stretched across known space. "The Galactic Council will acknowledge the independence of all species that wish to leave your alliance," Chen announced. "All client species will be given the choice to remain under Council authority or join the Free Systems Alliance. All military actions against independent worlds will cease immediately." The Council representatives erupted in angry protests. The insect-like swarm representative clicked furiously. "Impossible! You are demanding the dissolution of our entire civilization." "No," Chen corrected. "We are offering you the chance to become part of a better one. Any species that wishes to remain in the Council may do so, but they will do so as equals, not as rulers over others." The jellyfish-like nebula representative pulsed with agitated colors. "And if we refuse these terms?" Chen's expression hardened. "Then the war continues until there is no council left to refuse anything." The threat was not empty. Human military power continued to grow while council strength diminished. Every month brought new defections, new rebellions, new defeats. The hegemony's choice was simple: accept the new reality or face complete destruction. Admiral Vex spoke quietly. "What guarantee do we have that humanity will not become the new oppressor once the council is destroyed?" "You have the same guarantee that humanity had 3 years ago," Chen replied. "None. You will have to trust that a civilization built on freedom will choose freedom for others as well." The negotiations continued for 3 days. In the end, the Council accepted terms that would have been unthinkable when the war began. The Galactic Council would continue to exist, but as a voluntary alliance of equal members rather than an empire ruled by the strong. Any species could leave at any time. Military forces would be used only for mutual defense, never for conquest or oppression. Most importantly, humanity would not replace the Council as the galaxy's dominant power. The Free Systems Alliance was designed as a defensive confederation, where each member species retained full sovereignty over their own affairs. When the treaty was finally signed, Chen felt a mixture of relief and sadness. Millions had died to reach this point. Entire civilizations had been transformed by war. The galaxy would never return to what it had been before humanity rejected that first treaty offer. But as she looked around the signing ceremony, Chen saw something that made the price seem worthwhile. Representatives from dozens of species sat together as equals, former enemies working together to build a future, based on cooperation rather than domination. Children from a dozen worlds played together in the station's corridors, growing up in a galaxy where freedom was possible for everyone. The war was over. Humanity had not conquered the galaxy. They had liberated it. And in the end, that made all the difference. Admiral Chen returned to Earth a hero, but she never forgot the lesson of those 3 terrible years. Freedom was never free. It had to be earned with sacrifice, defended with courage, and shared with others, or it would be lost forever. The galaxy had learned that lesson too. And it would not forget.